yes, it's a little bit of a grind, if you will. It's a little bit hard when you're getting started just to show up, because a part of that discipline is showing up first, making sure that you're doing the work that needs to be done. But then once you do it, it becomes easier. It becomes a little bit more repetitive. Then you have something called momentum that starts. And once you got that momentum, it just opens up so much possibility for you to take that next step. And whether it's personally or professionally, it's about that discipline of showing up.
Welcome everybody to the BeautyMynd Podcast here at Mastermind Beauty. I'm with the General Manager of North America, KEVIN.MURPHY, Rocky Rumpel. What's up, my man?
What's up, big dog? How are you?
Good, man. Good to see you in sunny California. It's March and it's beautiful out. Is that what was the weather like? Here. What was the weather like in Florida when you left?
Ooh, Sunshine State. Beautiful. Yeah. Sun was out. Different vibe out here, though.
Yeah,
Very different vibe. It's much more chill. Sun's out, but people are just vibing out here.
Yeah. Where do you spend most of your time these days?
Great question. Airplanes. Airplanes. I think just traveling a ton, getting to meet all sorts of people all over the world, really. Just come back from Australia not too long ago. Was in one of our home offices there, and well, talk about a culture. Australians.
Yeah, I haven't made it there yet.
Oh, fantastic people. They really enjoy life. They have a very unique way as to how they approach their life and work, and just making it fun all the way around. Yeah.
That's interesting too. I mean, obviously, like knowing, meeting Kevin and some of the team from Australia with KEVIN.MURPHY. How much you see like the Australian culture like bleeding into the actual brand, especially now that it's over 20 years old. Yeah,
it's really at the DNA, really, when you think about it, because when you look at KEVIN.MURPHY, you see fun bottles, you see loud colors, a unique design. You see some of the environmental pieces behind it, with having less plastic waste, which is really cool. And as you start to dive into it and get to know the brand a little bit more, you realize that's a very Aussie. It's a very Aussie thing. So they really do a great job at really injecting that whole Australian culture into the brand and really having it transcend, into salons and stylists alike, which is really fun.
I feel like they were like trailblazers in that, because like even seeing, I came on and learned about KEVIN.MURPHY way later. Obviously, Allison, my sister, had KEVIN.MURPHY at her salons and at our family salons in Michigan. But there was something about like, KEVIN.MURPHY's brand, like caring about ingredients, caring about the environment, that now it's like it's everywhere. But knowing that they've kind of always been about that, and like a lot of places are shifting, like, oh shit, we got to change something to like be able to compete at that level. But we should have always been doing that, and luckily everybody's making that transition. But KEVIN.MURPHY has felt like they've done that since the get.
Yeah, it's become a standard now. But KEVIN.MURPHY was certainly setting that tone very early on, and I could remember actually when I competed against KEVIN.MURPHY at one point in time in another life. I remember looking at the rectangle bottles, thinking like, oh, that's a weird shape. Like, wonder what that's all about. Like trying to just understand, like, why would somebody want that? But then actually now being with the brand and understanding the reason why, it's very intentional. It's very on purpose, for a purpose. And so, to have that rectangle, being able to fit more bottles inside of a box, to have less space inside of a box when you're shipping it, those are really, really minute details that I don't think a lot of companies actually think about when they design their packaging. And just to think that was done 20 years ago.
Right.
I've had people come up to me and ask, when did this brand come out? Oh, is it new to the industry? Oh, this is really cool. When did you guys come? And it's like to have the same design 20 years ago and still be relevant today and still be a thing. That's really cool.
Yeah, that's huge. Because 2004.
Yeah.
I think because somebody gave me KEVIN.MURPHY hat at one of the last events that we did, and it said established in 2004.
Yeah, so very unique. Very unique.
Yeah, I love that. And so now, I mean, obviously, we'll get to like what's the future look like for KEVIN.MURPHY. But how did you even get into the beauty game? I always find it really interesting how people, like, were you born in this, like raised in the salon? Like what was the?
Well, I can't say I was raised in a salon. I was actually raised in a military family my entire life. Grew up a part of my life in Europe before moving back to the States, and really traveled around a lot. So I got a chance to meet a lot of amazing people. Me and my older brother, actually, both college athletes, and to think my older brother was a college basketball player. I was baseball myself, And my older brother left college in the middle of the season to become a hairdresser and go to cosmetology school. So, you know, we look back at that now and we laugh about it. You know, that he, in hindsight, he was always into hair. We just didn't realize it. He was always he would go to barbers all the time. He'd hang out in the barber shop and he'd want to know how they're cutting hair. He would cut our hair on the baseball team, which was really cool. At one point in time, he was putting my number in the back of my head and a smiley face and a light bulb. Just crazy designs to think about. But then, you know, fast forward, you know, he really had a passion for being in the hair industry, and so much that he left university to pursue becoming a hairdresser. And so for me, I kind of follow suit with him after I finished school. Ended up joining on as a rep within a family-owned independent distributor called Columbia Beauty Supply, and you know, that's how I got involved. So it was my brother first, and then I was shortly behind. Now I didn't have the skill set of doing hair myself. I tried. That didn't really transcend to my fingers as I was trying to understand like different cutting techniques and how that actually works out. But I really did tear foils really well. Oh, really? Yeah, that's really great. Really great at tearing foils. So it was really fun, though. Being around. I mean, it's just very infectious. The hair industry, it's very infectious. The people that you meet and the journeys in life and where everybody comes from. It's just really, really incredible. That, you know, fast forward 20 years plus later, I could not imagine doing anything else.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I love it too, and I didn't plan to get into the industry. I'm so glad I'm here now, and but even so, if your brother was he always doing your hair like when you guys were living close by each other?
Yeah,
when was the last time he gave you a haircut?
Even well, not recently, of course. I just actually had one not too long ago from one of our artists in Australia, which I'm really, really excited about. She went easy on me when I was down there. She goes, I'm not going to give you the full-on Aussie mullet, but I'm going to give you like the introductory Aussie mullet. Yeah,
give you a little Aussie swag.
Yeah. So she went easy on me, but I'm very thankful. But yeah, my brother was actually my hairdresser for the majority of my life, which was great because I didn't have to really talk. I just sat in his chair and he just did whatever he wanted. So, you know, it was great. I love being around him. I love sharing the stories with him. You know, just as an athlete and, you know, as a hairdresser, for us to go to the same events all throughout the industry together. So cool. Just really fun. Yeah, really cool.
And so coming up from a military background and sports, like how does that translate to like your way of business, like being super regimented, or like how does that because, you know, with sports being all these life lessons that we don't realize that we're learning in the moment, but then getting and learning how to win and how to lose and overcome. Yeah. Like how does that like shaped you as a leader?
I think there's from a leadership standpoint, there's a lot that's a parallel, right? Like when you think about leadership, it is about having a certain amount of discipline, a certain amount of structure, and the way you go about things, and actually sticking to that process, being able to go through very difficult times and still know that there's going to be another side, right? Yeah. You know, and I would say, I don't think a lot of people realize like how disciplined actually hairdressers are. We're focused a lot on the emotional side of hairdressing because it is a very creative environment, but there is a very high level of discipline that hairdressers, I think, follow when they're applying certain techniques to get certain results. Yeah. And so I don't think that's really called out enough because you know, it's overshadowed by a lot of the fun that the industry has to offer. Yeah. But yeah, from a leadership standpoint, I would say having the discipline from a military family and having the understanding of strategy and how things work has really suited me well throughout the years, whether it's been, you know, in business or formerly as an athlete. Yeah.
Right. Very interesting.
I shouldn't say formerly as an athlete. I'd like to still think I'm an athlete somewhere deep down.
There's a TikTok trend of like, have you seen that TikTok trend where like the wives or girlfriends will say like, hey, do you wish like you were or like looking at their boyfriends, like, do you wish that you were as athletic as him or something? He's like, I am athletic. Yeah. Because later in our later years, we always think we're still like in that guy.
In my own mind. And I
have to run somewhere, and I'm like, dang.
Yeah. It doesn't get me until I do box jumps. Really. That's when I realized those box jumps, I don't have the spring.
Oh, not anymore?
There's no spring there.
See, I was always slow. Yeah. I couldn't jump high. I'm like, but that's hilarious. Yeah. So take me back to the beauty journey. So you're with an independent distributor, And how does your career take off from there?
Yeah. I've considered myself very, very fortunate. I work for an independent distributor named Columbia Beauty Supply, based out of Charlotte, North Carolina, and really got in early with them and spent a couple years with them learning the beauty industry, learning different processes of management. I became a manager at a very young age, which I'm very thankful for. It exposed me to a lot at a very young age. So. We were actually the second acquisition of what would become a company called SalonCentric at the time. So we were very early on developing a distribution channel for L'Oreal, and L'Oreal stepped in and was really interested in getting involved with distribution and understanding and expanding their platform, if you will, from manufacturer to distribution. So, having an opportunity to lay out something that you're really unsure at that point what it's actually going to become, but you have a vision of what it can be, and you slowly going through methodically what would that look like, who would be the next best area to really expand to, and what would that distributor look like, and what values would you share with that distributor in order to really build something from a national footprint standpoint. So having an opportunity to do that very, very early on was just amazing in every aspect, because you learn a lot from all your failures. Right? It wasn't beautiful, wasn't peaceful to start. It was very much in the trenches. We were building something new and something different that the industry hadn't seen yet. So,
What would you say that, like, because being able to experience and be a part of like the evolution, like what do you think you take away from seeing something like that? Because I think how fast industries are being disrupted or things are changing, I'm always so interested in like how things are evolving, and you really do have to evolve with the times or you die. So like seeing a company like that evolve and be immersed into something even bigger, what are some of the things that you take away from like your early lessons from that?
Consistency. I think that's the biggest takeaway from that is it's a difficult thing to build when you're starting at the ground level, and you have a vision, you have an end game as to what you want it to be. But, do you have the consistency and all the effort that you need in between there, right? To get up, to show up every day and to keep going. And that was the grind for us. That was the grind, is understanding that you're onboarding a new organization, you're onboarding a new distributor. What culture do you want them to feel? What values are important to you? What values do you really want to instill into them to make them feel a part of a family? Because these were family-owned businesses, many of them early on. That SalonCentric, which was soon to become SalonCentric, was acquiring at the time. So, we had to have a certain balance of keeping the family environment, but at the same time growing as a company and as an organization with this big company called L'Oreal.
Wow, that's super interesting. And I think, one thing I saw on your Instagram triggered a memory of an early story that I'd love for you to tell people. But if you look at your top 5 rappers, Biggie was on your story the other day. Is he your number one?
He's my number one. Biggie's my number one.
Same, man.
Yeah, hands down. You know what? It's I'm an East Coast guy through and through. New York is home. Will always feel like home to me, and so Biggie early on, for him, his lyrics, they hit home because he started from nothing, grew up to be something, and so that music just really hits. Still today, when you hear that music in a crowd, I would challenge you in a crowd to not be able to just drop what you're doing and just feel that music.
I used to come home in 8th grade. My friend had just gone to 9th grade. He lived across the street, and so he'd get home earlier than I would, and I'd be walking down the street as I hear from his, he had these big speakers in the house playing Juicy on the way
That's
home.
The one.
And then I'd get in my house, I hear it bumping on his side, and then it would never fail. Every day he'd hit me up and call me on the house phone, right? You look at the caller ID, who it was, and I was like, hello. He's like, hey, you want hamburger helper? So I was like, yeah, I do. So I walk over across the street listening to Notorious B.I.G., Life After Death, eating hamburger helper.
Amazing.
Most days out of the week. It's so fun.
It's such great music, and listen, great music born out here too on the West Coast. That was during that time you had Tupac and you had Biggie, and you had everything going on, and Ice Cube was great, and you just have all these just great hip hop artists, I would say, emerging in early 90s, mid 90s, which was really cool.
Yeah.
And then insert, the new wave of hip hop, which was ATL with Outkast in there. So
yeah, and they changed the game.
They did. They put a different flavor on it.
That double album was forever changed my life. I think it was my senior year of high school.
Yeah.
So where does Jay-Z fall in line with all this?
Yeah. So Jay-Z. Jay-Z. Love. Definitely a fan of him as a New York early hip hop artist. So funny story I'll tell you about Jay-Z. Not that I've met him by any means, but I like to feel like I have sometimes. So I keep referencing what would become Salon-centric, and because we were trying to figure out the name of what that was going to be at the time. So it was so early on. There was a small group of individuals, and
what year was this?
Maybe I'm going to go with 2008, 2009, sometime around there. We were trying to figure out what this company would be called, and so L'Oreal was really tasking everybody in the room, to figure out a name. And so it is, I would say, is very elementary as writing something down on a piece of paper on a Post-it note and sticking it in a hat. And you had to come up with a reason as to why you would want that name. And so, I got my Post-it note out. I'm writing, and they said, well, bring it in tomorrow morning. So everyone's going to go home. We're going to think about it. So I went home and started thinking about it. Came in, I wrote on there the blueprint. And I thought, the blueprint, this is going to be great. This is a new organization. It's a new company. When you're looking at a new house, building a new house, what do? You create a blueprint. That's what we're trying to do right now. That seems very sensible. I feel like I could really speak to the blueprint. But the truth was, I went home and I was actually listening to Jay-Z, and he had just released his album, The Blueprint, during that time. And I think about that because if the Blueprint actually got second in the voting, obviously to Salon-centric.
Right.
But I was so close to this organization being called The Blueprint, which would have been the ultimate joke, knowing that I went home, listened to Jay-Z that night, felt inspired, and decided to put Blueprint on a piece of Post-it.
Dang, so that's hilarious.
Yeah. So Salon-centric, so close. But yeah. Salon-centric actually. Shout out to the young lady who named that. I don't quite remember her name, but she had a sellable story. The 3 rings, the customer, the manufacturer, the distributor. That's what those 3 rings mean. So she did a great job, brilliant job with the marketing.
What did she get for that?
Well, I'd tell you what. I'm sure if you asked her today, she would give it back. But I think it was somewhere around a $500 or $600 gift card for that. For that. So I would say, given that the company has grown into what it is today, it's certainly undervalued.
Wow.
So yeah, I think I got a $100 or $150 gift card, which was like, thanks for participating. Yeah.
You got second place?
Second place. That was it. All good.
What did you do with yours?
All right. I don't know, man. That's so long ago. I can't even quite remember what I did. Probably bought some supplements or something with it. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so wild. And now, like, seeing how like the whole world has evolved since that moment. That did you ever think that what was being built right then would amass to what it is now?
Yeah, strangely enough, yes. And I say strangely enough because, that's that consistency I was really referencing earlier. Like they were very adamant about, how they really want to be a big player in the industry. And in order to be a big player in the industry, you were going to have to compete in a very big way with the store business. And the company who really owned the store business at the time was Cosmoprof. And so they have always been a big player in the industry when it came to the stores and store business. With their parent company being Sally's. And so they had a very strong hold on the industry in terms of servicing the stylists from a store level. So Salon-centric came along and said, I think we could really challenge them. And they had the resources behind them, obviously the funding from L'Oreal to really invest into that and really grow towards it. So, as that company evolved and they acquired other distributors all throughout the U.S., you really start to see how that came to fruition and how they really executed that plan to the fullest, and so store business for them, it was pretty significant these days.
Yeah. And it's to think about, the independent game when you talk about they're picking up all these independent distributors, but then you have this other company being built by acquiring all of them. it's very even similar to think about like Amazon or like Walmart's and all these places. Like we can be upset that like, these small markets are not making it anymore, but the fact of like a bigger company being able to give other people careers through them. I remember being upset about, something, and my dad telling me like, well, yeah, but now you also have consistency and like all these people have jobs versus having a small market that maybe wouldn't be able to, stand the test of time. And so there's like the good and bad that come with everything, but you do have to evolve, and knowing that they acquired all these other companies that maybe wouldn't be around anymore.
Sure.
And then if you become a conglomerate and be this bigger company that's, able to do even more, that's just kind of the nature of business.
Yeah, for sure. And I think sometimes it's very easy to look at it and say, oh, you've joined this bigger company, so you're going to lose touch or lose feeling. But to your point, it is having more resources allocated into that business that maybe didn't have it before, so it's able to scale the business in a whole nother level, which is not always a bad thing,
Right.
and along the way you create different career paths for different individuals, which I think is a great thing. And I certainly was a product of that at a very young age, and navigating through a career path that we were really building from an organization standpoint. So whether on distribution or for me moving over to the manufacturer after getting that distribution experience, was a great experience and one that I definitely value.
Yeah. So what did those next years look like for you? So you were there for a while.
Yeah. So I was with SalonCentric for quite some time, and after my time within distribution, I'd pretty much managed a lot of different levels, almost every level that I could at the time from a distribution standpoint. And one thing I really lacked was manufacturer experience at the time. So L'Oreal was really great and proactive about coming to me and having this conversation with me from a professional development standpoint to shift me out of distribution background into a manufacturer role. And so manufacturers and distribution, they function completely different. The how you interact with your customer is different. The promotions that you plan are very different. How you actually go to market is very different. So to have that next level experience and working from a manufacturer in the back half of my career really propelled me forward, because it's not very often that you have an opportunity to work for both. And so I feel very, very grateful that I got that experience very early on within my career.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you can see how learning all of those different things and bringing it to like even your current position now. What are you seeing in like the industry and how things are changing and kind of what's going on in your world now based on all of that?
Yeah, so the industry, it always continues to evolve, right? I think when you look at new product development, what are consumers actually looking for? You got the segment that's actually new product development, so being first to market, which Kevin's really brilliant at, of really having a pulse on what's happening in the market, what we need to deliver next. But also there's business shifts, and those business shifts are, how you actually interact with your customer, and your customer being your salon stylist. And what does that interaction look like? How do they actually feel your brand when you're actually speaking to them? So whether that's through social media or whether that's through events like Here's the Thing tour that we just come off of, which was absolutely slamming.
Yeah, loved it. I was here at the one in LA.
So good. But it's about how you actually are showing up and interacting with your clients now, as opposed to in the past, it was about going through a distribution network, and then once you spoke or sold the distribution network on it, from that point, it was up to them to really talk to the stylist about the brand. And so now you're seeing much more of a unified approach with distribution, with the client, with the manufacturer, and really having that, triangle, if you will, to really show up for the customer and the stylist.
Yeah. So how do you keep, because you had mentioned this before, it feels like this is like a common thread through everything, is like having that, like ensuring that the culture of the company stays intact through every channel. Like how do you reinforce that so that when the salons are even selling the retail or using the color or what have you, they really feel and they understand the brand?
Yeah, that's always the tricky part, I find, is trying to get the personality of the brand. One is making sure you have the right people, right? The right people and the right vibe, and you guys are all vibing together, so you all think along the same lines and feel along the same lines. But having different events, I would say people want to know that there's real people behind the brand.
Yeah.
And I feel like when you look at successful companies nowadays, they're able to transcend, they have that bit of humility to them that they're showing, and they're showing that they're not perfect, that everything doesn't have to be perfect, and that we are actual humans. And so, you're seeing more skits, more outtakes, more of that type of engagement. And people are like, you know what? I could relate to that.
Yeah.
That's cool. I like that. And so for us as a brand, it's about showing more about who we are as a brand, and having that Australian culture is great, because that Australian culture, that comes natural to them to really have a fun and really have a good time, so it's about trying to expose that more, so people understand, like, yes, it's okay to be premium and still have fun.
Sure.
You don't have to be premium and have this whole feeling of like, oof, I don't know, maybe not approachable. It's like, no, let's be premium, but let's have fun. Let's not be perfect, and let's let people see that a little bit more.
Yeah, that's what I see at our digital media agency across the board, with our clientele, whether it's celebrities or a real estate agent. It's like they always try to put the highlight reel out, and then what they realize is they're creating this fabricated, just cover to everything, and then number one, they don't get to be as real on, and have that just like, this is who I am type of mentality. It feels like everything has to be perfect, but then the follower on the other end doesn't feel as attached to them anyways. So once we're able to break that, everything changes for the company. And we were on a call today with the CEO of Vish, Josh. I don't know if you met Josh.
Yeah,
he was telling me about their new social media strategy that's really allowing them to take off. And he said when he first saw some of this content that some of their creators had sent over, because they're doing something with not just their internal team, but having other people send in content. And it was something like, it was this crazy video. And he was like, I almost spit out my gum or whatever. But then he was like, oh, we can't keep this out there. They did keep it out there, and it killed for them. And when you take a step back and you realize, oh, I can just put anything, I can put something out as long as our heart's in the right place and we're being funny or whatever the case. Yeah. People love that.
It's real.
Yeah.
Because we're all real. And it's about showing those outtakes, I feel like, and it invites more people to connect with you at times. And even when I sit here, and this setup is absolutely stunning, man. It's really cool. Really cool. So this is ultimately what people see is like, oh, everything's a finished product, and it's nice, well done. What they don't see is, an hour ago when I was dropped off here on the street, I wasn't sure. The guy just said, "You're here," and it just he put me out on the street, and I just got out, and I said, looking around left and right, and I'm like, well, let me just dial Mark up and just see, feel like, make sure I am in the right place, because he bailed on me. He left me out there, so it's good.
I would even say, so I'm a big good, better, best type of guy too, where we didn't have the live cut, we didn't have the monitor. We had somebody with two stools with the computer on the top of it, like sitting right here. Yeah. We weren't live cutting. We had different lighting. It wasn't into the ceiling. Like, it was just, okay, this will work. And then what we started seeing is just just being real, putting content out there. We'd have celebrities that come through here, some podcasts blowing up. And when I look back at that old lighting, I'm like, ugh. But I needed that to then evolve it into what it needed to be. That's it. And now I'm at a point where, like, okay, I don't think we need to, make any other adjustments. I don't know, Tanner, do you think we need to do anything else in here?
No, it's perfect. It's never been better.
And part of building the team too,
right?
Facts. Part of building the team.
Yeah, even like that, right? I used to, I always started producing the podcast at the beginning to make sure that everything was where it needed to be. Then you bring in a team member like Tanner that comes in. One of our podcasts was like, whether it was Mark or Tanner doing it, like Kobe or Jordan.
Yeah, I'll let you decide who's who.
But yeah, having the right person to come and elevate something is everything. But
no Isaiah Thomas.
I mean, not top five, not top five. He's on the wall with Joe Dumars. We got Barry Sanders in the back in the bathroom. Yeah, we got all the Detroit legends. But yeah, no, I'm a big fan of just putting that reel out, putting that reel, REAL or REEL, and just putting it out and let the market decide what it is, especially if you have your heart in the right spot. This is what we preach at Mastermind Beauty when talking about social media content. Put it out there, and just once you get to the point where you can be comfortable with, that's who we are, and no matter what happens on the other side of it, you get to be happy and aligned internally, and everything else can work out the way it needs to.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that's actually happening in the beauty industry as well. Like when I think about back of how you would interact with a client, you know, they would come in, they would show you something, you know, in a magazine. This was before phones, of course. They'd show you something in a magazine. I want this haircut, hair color, whatever it might be, you know, and you would do that, and the client would be happy if they felt like you really executed whatever that was, you know, from a stylist standpoint.
Yeah, Cameron Diaz or Drew Barrymore or something, whatever the magazine article was.
But nowadays, it's the beauty is in the eye of the beholder, right? You know, the client now is coming in, and you know, they're not necessarily saying I want this specific look, right? They're coming in and they have that comfort level with their stylist a lot of times, and they just, you know, hey, this is what I'm feeling.
Yeah.
This is what I'm feeling as a person. This is what I'm feeling. I'm looking to make a career move, and this is the person I want to be. So it's much more of an emotional feeling nowadays than just a physical hard look that it used to be.
Yeah.
Which is really cool.
And how a certain hairstyle can transform you.
Yeah.
Is like, I think that's one of the things maybe I don't even give enough credit to the stylist of today, and like being able to be like, no, like you do a cut on somebody or a color on somebody and you change their life based on how they're not perceived, or they feel more like themselves or the version of themselves they want to be. But it's almost like that cosign from your hairstylist, especially somebody you know and you trust, that can help elevate your game.
Yeah.
Once they're like, oh, that's sick,
Yeah.
then you feel like it's sick, and you walk out, and then you know you operate in the world better.
Yeah, and that's the one thing I'll tell you. That's the one thing I'll never have an opportunity to really experience from a hair standpoint.
Yeah,
as a manufacturer, as a distribution person, whatever it might be, the hairstylist has that opportunity to make someone feel so good about themselves.
Yeah.
from a look that they put with them.
Yeah, yeah.
And that I've always been envious as I've watched my older brother, you know, as he's had clients, and I've watched them when they come in, and I watch them when they leave, and I see the expression on their face, and that's just crazy.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
So good.
What's the most, like, did you grow up having like long hair? Were you more adventurous with your guys' looks? What was your vibe?
The many looks of Rocky, I would tell you. I definitely had long hair. Had longer hair.
Like ponytail length?
Not on my shoulders, but it was pretty close.
Yeah, yeah. I always got close too.
So being a football player, aka soccer player, you know, back then there was a thing to have long hair. You'd wear, you know, a headband, or, you know, if you were a big David Beckham fan, like you would have the cornrows.
Yeah.
So yeah, at one point in time, I rocked the cornrows.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, walked out on the pitch, cornrows straight back. It was great, you know,
Yeah.
and that was the look at the time. But yeah, I've when I think about all the evolutions of hairstyles I've had over the time, it's pretty wild.
Yeah,
so this leading up to the first modern mullet that I've had from my Aussie. Yeah.
I always tell the story when we're speaking to a new group of people about when I was in 8th grade. I went to get my photos taken, and then the first day of school was the next day or something like that. Went and got it with my normal like buzz cut or whatever, and I got home and my mom was bleaching Allison's hair blonde, and she's like, hey, you want to do your hair too? And I was like, can I? And she's like, yeah. So she bleaches my hair. Next day, girlfriend.
There you
like
have it.
just like
And there you have
and then I think that's when I first realized, like, oh, hey, okay. So I was blonde Mark for
That's
almost
it.
all of high
They
school.
pay attention.
Yeah. So might need to another.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not blonde Mark these days. I'm just silver.
Yeah. Just silver rock.
Just turning a classic shade of silver now.
But that's, I mean, that's part of the Kevin Murphy brand too, right?
That's
That's
part
his.
of it.
That's
That's
the
it.
silver too.
Silver fox.
Yeah. So so take me to like right now. What's the snapshot looking like? Like what are you finding that's, you know, super important to you right now as things are evolving internally and externally in the world?
Yeah, for sure. So you know, for us as a brand, Kevin Murphy, we're undergoing a lot of change right now, and it's a lot of positive change for us as an organization. The last, I would say, you know, 3 years as a brand, you know, we didn't really do anything really monumental in terms of shaking up who we are. We've continued to go down a certain path, and that path has traditionally always worked, and until it doesn't, right? Yeah. And so, you know, for us, we needed something very monumental that was really going to shake things up. And so, you know, we've developed a strategy now that's really going to allow the hairdressers to have more access to the brand, you know, because as I mentioned earlier, it's about the hairdresser really, you know, how do you communicate with the hairdresser? What's that interaction look like? And so, we've just expanded into salon centric for the first time, and so we've gone from 110 stores previously to just about 900 stores within the United States. So really, really exciting move. Is really big move, but more importantly, it was a professional move. And so I stress that because for us as an organization, Kevin Murphy he's the man. He is a human. He is the man. And so, as a hairdresser, it's really important for him to have that foundational DNA to be a pro brand, And so, as we look at what Kevin Murphy looks like, down the road, it's really important to understand, like, how do you keep that DNA? Like, how do you grow but still not grow out of who you are as a brand? And I think that's always a tricky part as you think about how do you really align your brand. So exciting times for Kevin Murphy right now as a brand, exciting times for Kevin Murphy, the man, because that's going to expose us to a lot more stylists. And in addition to that, we've now have 300 different platforms from an education standpoint. So our key team, who is all of our education team out there in the U.S., it really has a whole another possibility that they didn't have before, which is speaking on platforms and 300 different platforms, to teach and inspire. And that's what they love to do. That's what they love to do.
Yeah, it's so important too. I mean, because being a brand that's front facing and selling products or what have you, but having the ability to go in and continuously uplift the stylist and to educate people to get them to a point where they're always at the top of their game or learning something new and constantly evolving. Because as we're talking about businesses evolving, the game for salons or stylists, everything is evolving too. And I think the more you educate yourself, the more not only money will you make, and everybody wins when that happens, but also the more you just feel at the top of your game, or you're enjoying what you're doing. And that was one of the big things for Mastermind Beauty. We saw the chaos that was kind of happening in the industry, especially post-COVID. Everything changed. So as everything changes, you have to analyze it differently and then make the moves that are going to make sense for the future of whatever you're working on. And, we're kind of analyzing the chaos of the industry and how can we continue to educate people in a way that's going to allow them to make better decisions in the future.
Yeah, and change is always difficult, right?
Yeah.
Both, whether it's personal, you're trying to have personal change of growth, or you're working with a large-scale business. And those changes are always going to feel like, ooh, they just, but it's about having that long-term vision of like, hey, where do we want to go and how do we get there?
Yeah.
What does that look like? And how do we not only get there, but how does everybody win and come together to do it?
Yeah.
And so we're very thankful for the stylist community and how they've really come together and thanked us for this. And it's been really cool to see some of the reactions out there that people are going to have more access and more accessibility to the brand that wouldn't have had it before.
I can't tell you how many people came up to me in Phoenix that were just at the event there. They were just like, wait, we're going to be able to I didn't know that this was going on. And and they were just so excited. Yeah. Cause that's what it is. Like growth is it's never easy. I don't know. All the moments of my life that I grew the most were the times that were the toughest. Sure. And then on the other side of it, it made sense. And that's what you have to do, is really take a step back and say oh, I get it. I can see how this is going to make more sense. And the fact of how many more people are going to get access to the brand. So many people came up to me in Phoenix and were so excited. Yeah,
it's a win for the stylists, because the stylists that now could access the brand. It's a win for the education team, our keys, because they're going to do what helps them get inspired, which is teach and inspire other stylists. So more people are going to have more knowledge. To your point, more knowledge equates to some, not all the time, but most times, making more money. Which is great. So it's a win-win for the industry, and for us to stay within the professional environment really was key to part of the strategic move, and we're really, really excited to take it.
Yeah. So how, when you think about from a distribution standpoint, how do you keep a lot of what was important prior, still evolve things, but then also keep some of the things that were tried and true from the past?
Yeah. So we still have independent distribution, which is important to us, and I would say that's key to us because they bring a different level of focus to the brand. So the independent distributors will have a sales team that's on the street, which is really important. Salon Centric's really focused just from the store level. They have another individual subsidiary part of the company is state and RDA, which is also going to have some street representation in there. But having the balanced approach to the portfolio is really the key. It's not going all in on one channel and just hoping for the best, but how do we really spread this out to where we feel like everybody is really winning in this, but while everybody's winning, we're actually winning with them, that we're not capping any opportunities on the table. So we have a nice balanced approach to the way we're actually running the business now, which is great.
That's huge. That's huge. And so take me into like the future. What do you see? Like, what are like the high hopes? I mean, I think one of the first things that when we met in Budapest, I think that was the first time we met.
That was.
Yeah. And I had just asked you like, okay, like what's important to you? What do you specialize in? And you always talked about like systems and processes, the things that you need to have in a company. And that's one thing as an entrepreneur that I've learned more and more of, like, otherwise, you have too many blind spots or, or whatnot. So, so now as things are evolving internally, like, where do you see the future going?
Yeah. So anytime you mention systems and processes, people immediately like, oh, nope, not for me. Like, nope, I'd rather not, because it sounds really rigid, right? But having discipline actually gives you freedom in other areas of your life.
100%.
And so, we're, as a brand within North America, really establishing a strong sense of systems and processes that we didn't have before. And with that is allowing us to really go after growth at a whole nother level that we didn't have, previously. So whether it's in education support, whether it's sales support, whether it's in business coaching from Mastermind, which is important, the systems and structures are allowing us to open up other opportunities that we didn't really have in play. So for us, I see this as, yes, it's a little bit of a grind, if you will. It's a little bit hard when you're getting started just to show up, because a part of that discipline is showing up first, making sure that you're doing the work that needs to be done. But then once you do it, it becomes easier. It becomes a little bit more repetitive. Then you have something called momentum that starts. Then once you got that momentum, it just opens up so much possibility for you to take that next step. And whether it's personally or professionally, it's about that discipline of showing up. And so I see for us as a brand at Kevin Murphy, as once we have established these systems and structures in place, we're really going to be growing at leaps and bounds. And the benefactors of that are going to be the hairstylists. And so we're really, really excited about that.
Yeah. That's it's so interesting that you mentioned how it sounds rigid initially, and people are like, oh, I don't know if I want that. You don't realize how much you need that until you have it, and then you realize, wait, how did I ever function before? And that's some of the things that we're trying to even instill in hairstylists that are, whether it's an independent or commission salon, whatever, like, how do you have systems and processes in place that allow you to operate at your highest efficiency, where you don't have to do, if you have to repeat something twice, then you should have a, process for that.
That's it.
And then that's why I love seeing that light bulb moment when you start, even at a smaller scale, when somebody can, instead of working off a Google Doc with like their business partner and checking things off the list, actually having things that allow you to be more efficient. Once they see these different tools they can use, everything changes. They're like, whoa, of course I need to do this, because they've had this problem that they haven't analyzed and figured out yet. So I love the fact that like that you've been able to kind of instill that into a company that, helps them with growth, but also is going to trickle down and really impact everybody else involved.
Yeah, for sure. And the key is having the right team on board, right? Like having the right team that really adopts that mindset that, we're just not going to survive, we're going to thrive, and we're just going to get up and we're going to go after it. And so I'm very thankful for the team that we have on board right now, because everyone is cut from the same cloth, and everybody not only wants to win for the beauty industry and for the hairstylist, but they want to see the company really thrive and go to a whole nother level. And so it's really cool for us as a company to get behind. And I would say that's very much a part of the Kevin Murphy culture. When I look at different parts of the Kevin Murphy offices, so in Copenhagen, where we have an office in Denmark, there's group boxing sessions 3 days a week.
Oh, wow.
There's yoga sessions together with as an internal company 2 days a week. Our office in Brisbane does gym sessions, 2 to 3 times a week. So you really start to see this DNA between the brand of Kevin Murphy really intertwined with doing things together and celebrating together, also doing difficult things together. it really sounds great when it's like, oh yeah, let's have a boxing session. And then about 10 minutes into that boxing session, you're like, maybe this wasn't a good idea, you know, because it's intense. But then after the end of the workout, like you're so thankful and everyone's hugging and, you know, and it's great, you know, and I really enjoy the fact that, you know, Kevin Murphy as an organization really believes in investing into their people from the standpoint of doing things together and having that discipline and training mindset.
Yeah. You guys have such great vibes with the team. And I think that's one of the things that Allison even spoke to me before we started Mastermind Beauty. She had gone to an event, I think in Chicago, and met maybe Peter and Paul, or, you know, some of the team, the higher up team first. And just like the good time, you know, and Peter's always saying never above, never below, always beside, and having that mentality and knowing like the good times that are had. And I remember having a conversation with Ro out at West Coast Beauty, and asked him like when he was the first time he had met he had met Kevin and the team, or maybe it was Peter, and he was saying, oh, these guys are just having a good time at this, you know, maybe it was Vegas or whatever it was, and to see to know that that's behind the scenes, right? And then you go to the events with the Kevin Murphy team, or you meet everybody, you really do catch that vibe. And I think that kind of goes back to your point of like real people and being able to showcase that, because it's so infectious when you meet it in person. And if a business is front facing and you're not seeing the real people behind, you're missing like the gold of it all, a huge component to it. So, you know, just knowing the team really well now, as we've been working together at Kevin Murphy and at Salt Lake City and everything too, everybody just has such a great vibe, and just our team players are excited about the future and just kind of diehard Kevin Murphy peeps. Yeah.
And it's good because everyone gets involved, right? Like it's, so you referenced Peter McDonald. Like Peter McDonald is a light. He's a spark, and he has that gravitational pull that when you're around him, you can't help but to have a good time, you know. But the next morning, you know, he was actually my first boxing sparring partner. Oh, wow. You know, so you know, gives me some gloves, and it's like company CEO, and he gives me gloves, and he's like, we're gonna box together. And I thought, okay, this is gonna go one of two ways. Let me just kind of feel this out and see what's going on. But I love that he got into it, you know, and it was a great session. No one snuck any cheap shots, which is great. I made sure I was well behaved. But it was a great sparring session. And then we just recently did a retreat for all of our keys and our education people in Arizona, which was really cool. And you know, Sarah, who's Sarah Lund's our education director, really, you know, her and I have had some conversation, and she's like, you know, it'd be great to do something every morning, just something that refreshes everybody. So everyone got up and got on a group walk. So you're talking about 30, 40 people walking down the street together just to get their blood flowing, get the vibe in the morning, and then, you know, at nighttime doing some yoga sessions together as a group, which was really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, it really does take somebody to, like, you know, push that mission forward. And then the more we do that, the more we, you know, we work better collectively as a team. I actually want to take it to like your personal life, like, you know, being somebody that's, you said spends the majority of your time on planes, which you flew into here. Thanks for flying in.
Yeah, for sure.
But so how do you, like, you know, how long have you and your wife been married for?
Great question. We have been married for 17 and together for 2020. Yeah, 2021.
Wow.
Yeah,
cool.
Long time.
Cool. Yeah. So how do you, especially with this position, but I mean, what have you learned over the last 17 years or 20 years being in a relationship, married for 17 of them? Like, how do you guys, because you guys seem like, you know, you've figured out the formula. Yeah. You know, I mean, you know, we did Top Golf together in Arizona, but like having that good vibe, raising a son, you know, like what's that personal life? How have you figured out the personal side of things?
Yeah, it's always an evolution and a balancing act. So, but thank you for the compliment. Yeah, for real. You know, having spousal support at home is something I don't take for granted. She's in the industry as well. I've been in the industry. We've both been in the industry. Actually, she's been in a year or two more than I have. But we've always supported each other's growth very early on, even pre having a child together. You know, I knew that she was a very career-driven woman, and you know, we had that open conversation very early on about, hey, you know, this is what's important to me. This you know, for me, fills that void for me. It makes me feel like I'm contributing. And so, I never wanted to dim or take that spark away from her in any way. And so for her to be able to pursue her career goals, I knew was very important, but equally as important for me to be able to support her growth. And so when I really gave in to that, I realized I actually got a lot back from her, because there wasn't this back and forth of, whose career is going to really take the back seat so the other one could grow. It was always like, no, if this isn't right for both of us, then it's not a good situation, So I feel like we've been very fortunate, or I have been very fortunate that I have somebody that understands, the importance of personal growth, and she gives me my space. My space is 4:30, 5 a.m. every morning is on my own, working out, and she's never given me a hard time for giving my personal space there, because it sets my mind up to be intentional for the rest of the day, which helps me be a better husband, helps me be a better father, and so it puts my mind in the right space.
Yeah. Have you always been like a morning guy like that? Or
always.
Yeah.
Full on. You're going to get your best Rocky at 4:35 a.m. Yeah. You're not going to get your best Rocky at 11 p.m.
No. I've seen 11 p.m. Rocky. And no, it's questionable. No. But that's so true. I always attribute like an early morning, especially when I'm in my flow and I'm doing that daily. I'm in the gym, and it's almost like you're getting that time for yourself, but it's like that armor to go on and take on the rest of the world. Yeah. You can align and be your best self, but it also allows you to like see like the day better and then go and actually attack it necessary.
Attack it. And that's key. Like for me, once that workout is done, like I know exactly what I'm doing next for the next couple hours. It's work, or maybe it's getting my son up, making sure he has food. So the minute his feet hit the floor, he has food, he has a plan, he knows how he's going to attack his day. Yeah. We talk about it the night before. And I think just having a plan of what you're actually going to do, not just waking up and just seeing what the day brings, but just having a plan as to hey, when I go to bed, this is the way I'm going to attack the next day. That's key. Yeah.
It's a game changer. And I think a lot of people that maybe aren't morning people, but if they do prioritize themselves first, and we speak to this at our Mastermind Beauty events, these hairstylists that maybe like they have children and they're going to do their thing at, getting the kids ready. And Allison had a moment where one day she was like, instead of waking up at 4:30 and then going back to sleep and waking up tired at like 6:30 when every chaos starts happening, I need to make that my morning routine. So she started getting up at 4:30 and was able to be so much more efficient, show up in her life in so many different ways. Oftentimes we think I need a little bit more rest so that I could actually be that person. And sometimes it's not the rest. I mean, you still need your rest. You get your 8 hours. Sure. I love a good 8 hours when that happens, but having those 2 hours before to take on your day, it's so transforming. It allows you to be who you want to be. You're the best version of yourself, but then be able to do all the things you want to do and transform your business. Yeah.
And you see that really shows up in different areas of your life, right? You start attracting that person, that same crowd that has similar interests. For my wife and I, we've seen how that's actually showed up in our son's life. And so we see the work that our son puts in and the hours he puts in to study and preparation, and he still is an athlete. So, he plays baseball, he plays, football, soccer, and he baseball weekdays, soccer weekends, and he's still putting in the work every single night with his studies. And it's not something we have to ask him to do. Right. It's something that he's seen my wife and I do, during his entire upbringing, putting in the work at night and making sure that you're prepared for the next day. So it's really fun to see that show up in different parts of your life, without actually saying it.
Yeah, and even and knowing that that's going to be a part of his life for the rest of his life, and be no matter what you're doing, learning those lessons, whether it's professional sports, is he want to do it professionally? Is he like coming from like collegiate dad and uncle?
Yeah, he loves sports, but he really is an academic individual. He's one of the top of his class, which I'm very humbly and thankful to say. But he's very driven, I would say, which is not a shocker to my wife and I, but he's very driven and goal oriented. So he's got his heart set on being an architect long term. So cool. He's looked at schools all throughout the U.S. and also outside of U.S. and Europe. So he's it's fun to see his journey. As a father, I'm happy to step back and just smile and just let him be him.
Yeah, and allow him to, like, the fact that he fell in love with something. That's so huge. Like, he's like strong with academics, great in sports and all of that, but to know that he wants to be an architect,
Yeah.
you know, at that age too, I think there's so much pressure on like figuring things out. And like, I lucked out. I took drama as an elective and fell in love with acting, and that got me to LA, and then as being a storyteller.
Amazing.
But like, so many people that I know that got forced into doing something they didn't like.
Yeah.
Versus like, wow, I want to be an architect. I love that he's found something that he loves.
He's really into it, you know, and that's the beauty. That's life, right? Like,
Yeah.
you know, it's about allowing that space. You have the parameters, but you allow the space to really develop and grow. And as long as you're within those parameters, understanding right and wrong, when to actually, you know, stick up for individuals. I mean, that's really cool.
Yeah, yeah. All right, so we've heard the journey. We understand how we got here now. There's so much going on. What are you most excited about with the future of Kevin Murphy?
Yeah, it's just so much to really be excited about. If I had to dial it into 3 real pillars in my mindset, would be opportunities, possibilities, and a new look. So opportunity meaning, you know, there's going to be new opportunities for more people to come on board, you know, for more people to experience the brand that maybe have not had a chance to experience before. Possibility meaning there's going to be more career possibilities within the organization, but also for people to actually navigate through a journey and help be a part of our journey that maybe they didn't have before. And then the new look. I mean, we're going to be a new look Kevin Murphy. You know, we're still going to be the same consistent, fun Aussie company that we've always been. We're still going to have the same cutting edge packaging, great formulation, but you're going to see a shift in some of our social media and our imagery and our direction, some of our creative direction that's being put forward, which is really exciting because, you know, it's an opportunity for us to evolve as a brand and show a different look with a different lens. And so that's important because being a brand that's been around for 20 years in the industry, you know, you got to stay fresh, you got to stay relevant, and that's exciting to be a part of something that is new in the industry without losing your DNA and your culture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you said a new look. Does the new look come with the full Aussie mullet eventually? Or are we going to see like an evolution?
It might come with a progression. If I could pull off the mullet, but maybe if I could actually pull off some cornrows again, that would be money. I don't know.
That's gonna be the thumbnail. Tanner is an AI extremist, and he can definitely do cornrows on, right?
Yeah, it's not even a problem.
Yeah. I appreciate that.
You might even have cornrows the whole episode.
If you want them.
Yeah,
just say the word.
I feel you. I'd be afraid of all the tugging on my hair. It actually might fall out these days. So maybe that's a lot.
Gotta be careful.
But man, that was a good look. I really enjoyed that look.
Beckham was that trend center, man.
Beckham was the man back then.
Yeah,
he was the man. Actually, still is the man this day.
Yeah,
I believe so.
Yes, sir. Awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on BeautyMynd.
Man,
it's been a pleasure.
To be here. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure, man.
Love the digs here in Cali.
Thanks, man.
And thank you to the team. Appreciate all the love. Looking forward to seeing you at some events soon.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Let's do it.